Astral projection, dreams, angels, what does it all mean? Have you ever experienced it? My guest on this podcast has, and he is going to tell us all about it. Stay tuned.
It's time for Survivor Angels, an approach to strengthen trauma survivors. Here, you can escape what draws negativity and engage your positive abilities and the gifts that you've always had. Let's activate your angels. And to help you on that journey, here's Chaplain Jodi.
David, boy, do we have a subject for the listeners and viewers on this show, don't we?
We do.
Thank you for coming on Survivor Angels.
Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here.
All right, so all of you who are out there in viewer listener land, we are going to talk about astral projection, of which David is no stranger to. Where did it all start, and how did you figure this out?
Okay, so at a young age, I noticed that when I was dreaming, if I didn't like the dream, I had an ability to change it, to kind of change the angle, change the perception. And I didn't understand that that was not normal. So I would discuss my dreams like with my parents or with my friends, and my friends didn't believe me, of course, and my dad did. My mom didn't. She thought I was just, just a kid, right? My dad did. He believed me, and so we would work on it, and he'd be like, well, if you try to do this and try to do that, and see what happens if you think this before you go to sleep. And so I started kind of doing that, just not understanding what I was doing, but I was able to put myself in different situations. So I was able to travel to locations. I was able to interact with individuals, places I'd never been before, things I'd never seen before, but I was actually there experiencing it, which I thought was kind of cool. I didn't understand that was like abnormal. It got really strange when I would say when I was probably like just at that hormonal 13, 14 years old, right? Like, so I'm going through my changes. Women are a little younger, boys are start a little later. I would see people in my dreams that would stop. Usually, when you dream, everybody's around you and there's stuff happening, but nobody's really interacting with you, right? Like you're part of the saga, like a movie, right? And I should say this too, right? So I don't remember what the percentage is, but I think something along the lines of like 85 to 90% of people dream in black and white. It might even be higher than that, right? And then a very small percentage of people dream in color.
Right.
So my dreams, since I was 3 years old, 4 years old, that I can remember, have been full-blown Technicolor, Dolby Atmos surround sound, just popping colors. Like the colors are so intense, and so that's always been kind of. I thought that was normal too. And then when I was a teenager and I started looking into some of this stuff, I realized I was like, well, that's kind of rare. Geez, it says like only 5% of everybody in the world. And at that time there was like probably 5 billion people in the world, 6 billion people in the world. I'm like, there's only like 5% of us that dream in color. Well, that's pretty strange, right? I thought at the time. So anyway, getting back to my thing. So usually you're just part of the play, right? You're part of the movie scene, and everything's happening around you. And even if you're engaging in it, it's just happening, and you're engaged in the happening of the moment. Well, all of a sudden, right around that 13, 14-year-old time frame, I noticed that people would stop in my dreams and look at me as if I was there, right? It's hard to describe, but if you kind of follow my drift of what I'm saying, right? So like they recognized me, or I was out of place would probably be more accurate, right? Like I wasn't, not necessarily they knew me, but like, why are you here type of thing. And then we would engage. And that was really strange to me, right? And I don't know if that was part of like maybe, I think that was part of the astral projection, but like somehow I was putting so much of myself into that process that I was actually manifesting myself where I was.
Okay.
And I know that sounds crazy, right?
No, well, no,
I mean,
I mean, I can't imagine it, but no, it does not sound crazy. Let me,
okay,
so right there, David, let me stop for just a second,
yeah.
because I'm sure a lot of people who are listening here are going, well, is this the same thing as out of body?
I don't know because you know what? I've never ever, when I project, I've never ever like left my body and looked down and saw myself and then went and traveled.
Okay,
That's never happened to me.
okay,
I fall asleep. I have a thought process prior to falling asleep, and that's where I go. So, like, if I want to go to Disneyland, all I have to do is think about Disneyland or watch a Disney commercial before I go to sleep, and then go to sleep, and then I can take myself to like Disneyland and relive a past memory of being in Disneyland in my dreams. And I can go there and I can actually change the events, which I know it sounds I know it sounds weird, but it happens, you know. So I'm not sure where the line is blurry for me, but I'm not sure where astral projection and lucid dreaming differentiated themselves.
okay.
Right. So they're kind of partners in crime, so to speak, I would say, right? Like so they're kind of
Mhm.
intertwined. But I think part of that, me putting myself so energetically into that location, I think part of that became lucid dreaming because I was able, if I didn't like the situation, like if I didn't like the individual that was there in the dream that recognized me or was questioning why I was there, then I would change that scenario and remove that entity from the dream, but then just continue the dream. So I would like just in my mind, I would think, well, have him go, let him go on an errand, or have him go home, or have him go back to the restaurant, or whatever, right? And then he would disappear, and then I would continue on the path I wanted to go on. So it was
So,
like I was removing roadblocks, so to speak.
right. So have you then, all of us have had nightmares. We all experience
Oh,
nightmares.
absolutely, yeah.
So for you, if it's a nightmare, you can remove either what the scary part is or remove yourself from it. Am I hearing you right? Or is that something different?
That's something different. Yeah, when it's a pleasant dream, I'm able to control it. If
Okay.
something really negative enters into my space while I'm astral projecting, it's combative, and
Okay.
we'll get into that later because I'm going to
Okay.
tell you about the like we discussed kind of prior. We'll move into that because
Okay.
there's very interesting stories or very interesting events that kind of give a clear explanation of that of when it's a bad dream.
Perfect. All right.
So for a long time though, I wasn't able to do anything about my nightmares. So I grew up in a house that had a dark entity in it that came after me specifically for I don't know from like age 3 or 4 all the way up to teenage years until I stood up to it, and it was
Okay.
just menacing. Big black mass came out of the closet, would knock on the closet door, would call my name, would laugh. It would slide. It would open the closet door, and you could hear it pitter patter like a child's feet, and
Yeah.
run across my bedroom floor because I had hardwood floors. And then it would slide under my bed. You could hear it slide, and then it would poke my mattress from underneath my bed and giggle and call my name. And I know, and it sounds crazy, right? Except for the fact that I would call for my dad, and when my dad would come in the room with a flashlight
Uh-huh.
and turn the flashlight on, he would watch it. He saw it with me run back into the closet. The closet door would slam,
Okay.
and then we'd open up the closet door, and nothing was there. But that was
Okay. Well,
years. That's a whole different
that's
episode.
cool.
That's a whole different episode. That's for a
Okay.
long time the negative dreams I couldn't do anything with. I just suffered through them like everybody else
Right.
does usually.
I mean, that's cool that you could share that with your dad, because a lot of times parents just think, "Oh, you'll grow out of that."
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I got into paranormal investigating. Right.
Mhm.
my purpose, the only purpose that I have as far as being a paranormal investigator, is to help families with kids to understand that for the parents, it's not okay to tell your kids, go back to bed, you're just having a dream, or don't worry about it. It's nothing, just go back to bed. That is not okay, right? You have to listen to what's happening to your child. And then
Right.
I spend quality time with the kids, and I've done a couple hundred cases in the last 40 years. And that's all I do is I deal specifically with families, and it's all just word of mouth referral type of
Okay.
stuff, and I do it solo. I've done it a couple times with other individuals, but I'm better if I just go in by myself, because being an empath, I can get a true sense of what's going on in the house when there's nobody else around me.
Mm.
I can sense what's happening with the children. I can feel their fear. I can feel where their fear is coming from, and then I try to
Right.
educate the parents, and I try to provide evidence that the kids aren't exaggerating and stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah. And
So
because I
for our
went through
listeners
it, I
and our
just don't want other
viewers,
kids to suffer.
okay, yeah. So for our listeners and viewers, I will have David's contact information in the podcast description. So if you
Sure.
would like to get a hold of him to help your children, you'll have that information. So,
Be more than
all
happy
right,
to.
keep going, David.
Okay. So where were we? So, okay. So, all right. So from there, I started it. And so as I got older, I guess, right, for a while, like I would say during college, I still could I still could travel, but I wasn't interested in it as much because there was so much going on in my life.
Yeah.
So probably through then I got married, and then like that was a big part of my life, obviously, and then our first kid was born. So I probably took a hiatus. I could still do it, but I wasn't as into it until I probably back to my mid 30s, maybe early 30s, mid 30s,
Okay.
and then I wanted to I kind of got back into it strong, um, because I had a couple of visitation dreams that I didn't like, you know, and
Mm.
so I wanted to kind of go explore them. I wanted to go find the root source of them, and so it took me a little while. I was kind of surprised because I thought I would just pop back into it, but
Right.
it's like anything else, right? If you don't use it, it's still there, but it's not as
Right.
it doesn't work quite as good, you know.
Yep.
And so it took me a while. It probably took me a good, let's say, like, I was dedicated to getting back to being able to do what I used to do when I was younger. So I would say it was a good 6 months, probably,
Okay.
before I could really kind of get back to where I wanted to be.
Mhm.
So I kind of once I got my skill set back, kind of fine tuned, I started pursuing kind of what these visitation dreams were coming from and stuff like that. And and it was interesting. Um, One of them was uh, a friend of mine, and I don't know who it is, but somebody I know, right, had wanted me to go jump through the dimensional planes. And I know that sounds fantastical. And he's like, you just have to be careful what number you stop on, because you don't
Yeah.
want to stop on the wrong number, right?
Right.
So he told me ahead of time, right? Like, so when we jump, you want to stay away from 7 and 9, but other than that, the other places are completely fine to visit, right?
Okay.
So we stop, do a couple jumps. We had beautiful experiences. One we stop at, I was walking through, I was walking up a path, and it was it was cherry trees in full blossom, right, with the beautiful, the pink white petals and the
Oh,
beautiful
yes.
smell, right. And so I'm walking up this path, and it's kind of gently snowing these uh, the flower petals on me, right. And then as I walk up, there's a reflection pond, and there's a bench, and there's an individual sitting there, and I felt extremely drawn to them. And I walk up and sit down, and I look over and smile, and it's Gabriel and the archangel. And
Right.
we had this incredible conversation, right? And I saw Gabriel as a female. And I don't know if that sounds odd or not, but she gave me a whole bunch of information,
Okay.
about my life and about me and stuff, and um, that everything was fine and that I was on the right path, and don't worry about the little things. Don't let them get in your way. Be careful, right? That was her big like parting moment, was be careful with what you're doing.
Okay.
We've got your back, but only to a certain point, right?
Right.
Because if you put yourself in too deep, then you're going to have to claw your way back out before we
Mhm.
can reach down and give you a hand. Was kind of
Right.
the lasting impression that I got from that
Okay.
meeting.
Let let me ask you a question about
Sure,
Gabriel then.
sure. Go ahead.
Um, basically angels are genderless. They're depicted as males because that's what artists have always done.
Because we're drawn, yeah.
Um, but they also don't have wings and halos, and you and I have talked about this before.
Right.
So what did Gabriel look like in this case?
Um, she had kind of wavy, short to mid-length brown hair.
Okay.
Um, had a very beautiful gold, large gold, almost like what you would see like maybe from ancient Egypt. Very ornate, decorative gold necklace, like a chest plate, breastplate almost, though it was bigger than a
Right.
necklace would be, right?
Mhm.
And a white robe tied with a brown cord and sandals on, like old
Interesting.
time sandals. Just other than strikingly beautiful, very strong aura type of presence, positive love, right? Energy, very, very, very strong, like extremely drawn to it. I was, right? Not everybody probably would be, right? I mean, because some people aren't drawn to love and super intense
Right.
energy like that. So I am,
Right.
though.
Mhm.
So went and sat with her, like I said. And then the only other thing I remember that was other than the beauty, um, and the words of wisdom, which I knew were spoken with truth, right? Like I know there was no deceit there. You could feel, I
Right.
just knew in my gut, and you and I have talked about this, right? I call it my spidey senses,
Mhm.
that you have to have faith in what your gut tells you, right? And when my gut feels like somebody opens up the jar, so imagine this is how I envision it, right? Is you've got like imagine like one of those glass cake plates, right, where it's like the Corningware, right, with the glass plate. You put your cake in there, and then you got the dome lid you put on there to keep it from getting crusty, right, keep it fresh. Imagine that in your belly, and somebody opens the lid, and there's 100 monarch butterflies or swallowtail butterflies in there, right? And when they come out, they go, and you
Uh-huh.
get that fluttering. That's what's in my belly when I know that either something really incredible is happening, something really incredible is about to happen, or I really need to put my guard up and bring in the white light because something very bad is about to happen.
Yeah.
And I've regretfully I've experienced that way too many times. Um,
Uh-huh.
but anyway, so other than that, it was that gold, that gold kind of chest plate necklace thing was just absolutely stunning. It was just really bright and gold. And to reference that gold color, now that I think about it, was the same gold that was in the room in Duluth when I saw the 1,000 little pinpoints of light that I told you about when you were on our show.
Right. Right.
It was the same intense gold. Like I can't even describe to you, like you could look at the shiniest piece of gold in the world and it wouldn't be 1/100th of how bright this gold is, right? It's
Uh-huh.
hard to describe, you know.
Yep.
Um, it's one of those things you have to see it. It's the same
Mhm.
thing like when I see a spirit manifest, like when I know that a spirit that doesn't for a lot of people that doesn't exist, they don't think it exists, right? But when I'm in a situation and I see a spirit manifest itself, I
Uh-huh.
see this absolutely incredible lime green, like this really
Okay.
intense, bright, bright. I mean, I've looked through color palette charts and stuff like that. I can't find the color, right? But
Okay.
the way my eye interprets it, the way my brain interprets it, and the way that the light comes into my eyeball, and then my brain tries to interpret the color, right? Because it sees it as this incredible, intense bright green. And then I can watch, it kind of comes down like a, and then it's a bright light. And it's usually just an abstract, and then the entity's there. Almost like they're porting in, and I can see the portation.
Sure, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. And it's happened so many times when I'm at a cemetery, which is weird. You know, like when I train people to get into the paranormal fields, like I trained Mike, and I took him to a cemetery, and we're standing there, and I'm sitting next to a tombstone, and all of a sudden, and I'm just asking questions, and we're just starting, and all of a sudden, a guy comes running up behind, and obviously it wasn't a guy, but you could hear the leaves crunching on the recorder, right? You can hear footsteps coming and leaves crunching on the digital recorder, and then he shouts in my ear, "God Almighty!" Right? And that's the EVP that we got, which is pretty amazing. And then right after that, like 3-4 seconds after that, I look at Mike, who's to my right, and to my left, I see that intense bright green, and I look over, and there's a manifestation of something just appeared, right? And that night was incredible. It was an old abandoned cemetery that we were at, and that was absolutely amazing. But
let me know next time you guys are going. I want to go with.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I've got a place that I can take you to that has activity every time I've gone there. I've been there probably 100 times. Every single time I go there, the individuals that are there just hanging out or checking on their remains, or for whatever reason they're there, they'll be like, "Hey, Dave. Hi, Dave." You know, that I'll get that on my recorder as I'm walking through there, you know, and
Nice.
It's just me, you know. It's a quiet little place, you know. It's on a dead end road, and nobody ever goes back there anymore for the most part. So, but sure, absolutely, more than welcome to go. It'd be fun. So, where were we? I lost track.
We're talking about Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel. Okay, right. So that was like one of the good stops as we're jumping. Okay. So I don't know if I got cocky, if I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, you know, it's my first or second time doing this, right? I'm just like, you know. So Peter's jumping, right, and I'm following Peter, and so Peter goes and he jumps to like number 5, and I jump to number 5, right, and then he jumps to number 6, and somehow I accidentally jump to number 7, and so Peter's on this place where there are unicorns and Pegasus and beautiful, just stunningly beautiful, peaceful, loving, right? And then there's a river. And I'm standing on the banks on 7 or on 5, whatever, looking back across at Peter. And he's waving at me and shouting, but I can't hear him. And then I turn around, and there's a unicorn standing right behind me that gives me a kiss on the cheek. Like either it was like a good luck or a farewell kiss, right? That's what it felt like. And then it left. And then it just disappeared. And then when I turn around and I look, it's just all barren and black, right? And there are a set of railroad tracks, like a mining cart would be, right? And not like a locomotive, more like a mining cart. And so I see that there's a cavern, and there's these tracks, and so I start following them, thinking that maybe it looks like it goes down, so maybe this will go down and then go under the river, and I can get back up on the other side where Peter is, and I can get back to where I'm supposed to be. So I walk in a little ways. It's dark, but I can kind of see fumbling around, and there's a mining cart, and so I get in the mining cart, and I think, well, it's better than walking, so I'll take this mining cart, right? And I'll go down. And so I release the brake on the mining cart. I'm going down, and we're just kind of, you know, slowly. It's not like going 100 miles an hour like a movie or anything like that. It's just kind of slowly rolling down, and I'm going down deeper and deeper and deeper. And after I'd been going for a little while, I realize that I'm probably way farther down than where the river is, because it's been a while now that I've been traveling down, right? And at first I'm just like, okay, I'm just going, and I'm not really thinking about how deep I'm going. Okay. And then I realized, you know, it kind of pops into my head, hey, you're probably a lot deeper underground than what you kind of thought you would be to get underneath the river. So now I'm kind of thinking, well, this probably isn't cool. Like I probably shouldn't be in this thing, right? That's what kind of just
Right.
my common sense starts to tell me. And then I see this soft glow of like this really intense orange, and it's way down. It's way down. It's just like a size of a marble down in front of me. But I'm headed towards it, right? And I go and I'm getting closer and closer and closer, and it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and I can feel the heat, and I can feel this intense dread, fear, panic, terror, um, and it started to smell. Right, it had that sulfuric, strong sulfuric smell.
Okay.
And so I jump out of the cart. Right, the cart's headed right for it. And I'm like, I got to get out of the cart because if I stay in the stupid cart, I'm going to go. Whatever I'm headed towards is not going to be good. Right, I'm like my gut is telling me get your butt out of this cart. Right, so I jump out of the cart, and now I'm not sure what to do. But for some reason, in my thought process is I need to see what this is, even though everything in
Really?
the world was telling me not to.
Uh-huh.
So I get probably within 10 steps, and I just have to take this little corner to see what it is, right? And all of a sudden, in the back of on my hand on my shoulder, right? And I
Huh?
turn around and look, and it's Gabriel. And she pulls me and turns and looks at me and just does this, right? Doesn't say
Don't
anything,
do it.
just does this, right? And then next thing I know, I'm back with Peter where I should be. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
So keeping an eye on me, like we were talking about, right? Like don't go too far, right?
Uh-huh.
That's where I got that from,
Okay.
right? Like don't. There's a certain line that you can't cross because if you do, we love you and we're going to be there for you, but don't push it, right? So I'm
Right.
not sure what was there, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know if it was Satan's lair. I don't know if it was I don't know. I don't know if it was some interdimensional evil. I don't know if it was some cosmic evil, right?
Yeah.
It was evil. I mean, there was nothing positive about it. So, I mean, I would call it evil,
Right.
as a
Right.
term. Call it dark, I guess, if you want to, right? Negative, right? To me, it's evil.
Yeah.
It
And
was
the thing I find really interesting about all of that too is the unicorn piece. I'm sure some people listening and watching right now are going,
yeah, this
all
is
right,
dumb.
he was on some really good drugs because he's
Yeah,
seeing unicorns and all.
yeah,
It's like, no, no, no. You have to listen to everything Dave is saying here.
yeah,
But with the unicorn piece, um, to me, I got the red flag when you said that, not because I was thinking you were on drugs, but because it's the fallen angels, it's the dark entities, the demons that will appear in these beautiful, fluffy, frou-frou, happy, whatever, go lucky, like a unicorn,
right,
because they want to disguise who they really are. And so for Gabriel to show up and go, don't go there,
right,
makes perfect sense.
right. Yeah, it was
To
pretty
me, it
amazing.
does.
It was pretty amazing,
Hmm.
intense experience. I mean, I can sit here with my eyes open right now, looking out my office window into the wetlands here, and I can
Uh-huh.
see myself in that situation. That's how strong it's burned into my mind. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, crazy. So that, I mean, that was kind of a learning experience as far as be careful what you're doing.
Right?
Don't go too far,
Mhm.
right? Don't. Uh, so yeah, don't push your luck. So on that, I'll share this with you too. So one of my, so there was a family I was helping, and uh, it was dark. It was a negative case. There was a entity that showed itself to me as a what you would see over an intense bonfire. So the heat ripple, right? Like, you know
Right.
how you get that heat distortion?
Hmm.
So I'm sitting in the living room talking to the parents. The kids are sitting in the kitchen. And from the kids' bedroom, this entity walks out, this flaming hot distortion. And it has these incredibly intense burning orange eyes. And telepathically, it tells me, what are you doing here? You're too late. They're already mine. Okay.
Oh,
So, you know, to me, I'm like, I don't think so. You know, that's what I said back. I just kind of laughed and I said, I don't think so. You know? And the wife was sitting there and she said, did you see it? And I said, did I see what? You know, and she said, did you see the black mass? Because they had been seeing this pretty intense black mass, all of them. And I said, no, I didn't, because I didn't see a black mass. So I'm just like, no. So anyway, so I investigated that thing and I provided there was just a ton of evidence. I mean, there was a negative entity there that had other individuals trapped there. One of the EVP sessions, I asked how many people were there. It said 9. And I said, can you tell me your names? And I got 9 different names in both male and female answers.
wow.
Clearly stated their
Wow.
names, right? And I won't say the name of the demon, or I use the term demon lightly, but I think in this case it was a demon. I think that probably less than 1% of all the cases that you ever see out there are demonic. But in this situation, I think it was a demonic entity. And they used, when I asked the entities that were trapped there, they used the demon's name, which I won't use right now.
Okay.
So I presented the evidence. I went back. I was doing the reveal, talking to the parents, and the entity came walking up the stairs from the basement where their daughter, who had Asperger's, their oldest daughter had tried to kill herself like 17 times. So this entity was going after her.
Sure.
You know, was targeting her because she was vulnerable.
Right.
And so at the end, it was a good conclusion. We got the house cleansed. We got the daughter the help she needed. The older daughter, the daughter, she got psychiatric care and she got the help she needed, and we got everything taken care of. And it turned out to be good, and the entity left. But in its last hurrah, before it left, the night before the house blessing, slash probably minor rite of exorcism, but the night before that happened, this entity, right out of a horror movie, and I believe them. I wasn't there, I didn't see it, but they told me the mom and dad were in bed watching TV, and all of a sudden something crawled up from the floor under the sheet, like under the blanket, and started crawling towards them, and then stood up and took the blankets off of them, right? Like as it would, right? As this thing rises, the blankets are going to move off of you. And then the blankets fell down, and they said it was an angel. They're like, oh, she was beautiful, and she flowing white robe and long flowing hair and golden hair, and just absolutely. And we're like, oh, we're so glad that you're here, you know, and we've had so many problems and all this other stuff. And I said, well, what was the most distinguishing feature that you saw in her? Well, she had these incredible orange eyes.
Oh boy.
And I said, yeah. I said, well, it's a good thing that we've got everything set up for tomorrow, because that was not an angel.
Yeah.
No.
To be continued.
Thanks again for joining Chaplain Jodi on Survivor Angels. For more information, go to chaplainjodi.me. That's chaplainjodi.me. And on Facebook at Survivor Angels-Chaplain Jodi. Sound effects for the show created by Andre Opate and provided by Pixbay. This is Dave Schrader. Until next time, sending you off to activate your angels.